Hey everybody. The other night during one of my live streams, I was feeding my discus fish here. In fact, I was feeding the whole tank some frozen bloodworms. Now, they're called bloodworms, but they are actually midge-fly larvae. But you all know what I'm talking about when it comes to bloodworms. They usually come in little frozen cubes, but you can also buy them in the freeze-dried form. And while I was feeding them to my discus, I had a few viewers express some concern that those bloodworms often contain parasites in them, and that you should not feed them to your fish very often because they are likely to contain parasites in them. Now, my first thought to that is, why, if you thought there was parasites in this food, why would you ever feed it to your fish rather than just occasionally feeding it to your fish? Again, if you had dog food that probably contained worms, would you feed that to your dog, or would you just buy a different brand? So right on its face, I just didn't buy into this idea that these bloodworms contain parasites in it. That simply does not make any sense. And for anybody that believed that they contained parasites and then still fed them to their discus, hey, it's your fish, you keep them however you want. If I thought there was parasites in the fish food, they would not be getting fed to any of my fish. Guppies, minnows, nothing. I would not feed parasites to my fish. And of course, when I went upstairs and started looking into it to find out where is all this information coming from, why is there this strong belief that these bloodworms contain parasites? First of all, I confirmed the fact that these bloodworms do not contain parasites. They're perfectly safe for your fish if you buy them as fish food. If you collect them in the wild, they are no more likely to be prone to parasites or infection or anything else than any other type of insect larvae. They're just an insect larvae. There's nothing special about these bloodworms. There's nothing that indicates that they are more prone or susceptible to be riddled with parasites or anything else, even in the wild. Now, again, keeping in mind we're talking about fish food that is prepared for the hobby. These worms are raised and grown in controlled conditions. They're frozen or freeze-dried before they're even sent to you, and parasites cannot live through a freezing or freeze-drying process. So again, just on its face, this statement makes no sense. There is no risk or concern or worry in any way about bloodworms containing parasites or whatever. But I feel the need to shoot this video because when I started looking into this, as I said, I was able to just kind of understand that this is a non-issue. But for thoroughness sake, I did go upstairs and I did go rooting around on the interwebs, and I started looking around, and I found a surprising number of people and forum threads that seem to believe this. They seem to believe that these red worms contain parasites or something. Every single example I found, bar none, was on a discus forum. So apparently this is some sort of belief that just floats around the discus community, and on almost every single thread I looked at, everyone said the same thing, that yes, they do contain parasites, and so therefore you should only feed them to your discus occasionally. I do not understand the logic of that. If you're saying in one breath that, yes, I believe this food has parasites in it, and then I'm going to feed it to my discus, I don't understand that. But again, you do you keep your fish however you want to keep your fish. I would never feed fish parasites. Parasites are not food. Parasites are parasites. But anyway, none of it matters because it's all a bunch of nonsense. There's absolutely no truth at all to the idea that there is any kind of propensity for these insect larvae to have any kind of parasites in them or whatever. The only issue I would say with the bloodworms is that they're a very high protein source, and so you kind of have to be careful with overfeeding your fish too much protein, and that's why they're usually regarded as a treat rather than a staple food. They're just a very, very high protein food, but the bloodworms are fantastic food for your fish. It's the closest they're ever going to come in your aquarium to finding natural forage. It's the kind of stuff fish eat when they're out in the wild. Insect larvae are absolutely on the menu of just about every fish out there, and the frozen bloodworms are just a fantastic way of giving your fish a very, very natural sort of food source with zero risk of any kind of parasitic contamination or anything like that. Again, I cannot stress that enough. there are no parasites in bloodworms. You do not have to worry about parasites in your bloodworms. So I'm sure that didn't clear it up, but maybe for some of you it did. I doubt that, is going to dispel this sort of belief that's floating around in the discus community, because I know once these sort of beliefs get, taken hold, they stay. And so I doubt I've changed anybody's mind in the discus community, but for everybody else that's not in the discus community, then you can rest assured that these bloodworms are not going to infect your fish, whether they're discus or not. They do not contain parasites. They're perfectly safe, and they're a very, very good food source for your fish, as long as you don't overdo it. Again, they should be treated as treats rather than staple food sources. So that's it for today. That's all I got. Make sure you're subscribed. Don't forget, I do a live stream every Friday night and Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and then I do a live stream every Wednesday night for my members only, where I tend to get a little more personal. It's a little more intimate environment. We can chat a little more, and it's usually a lot more fun when we do the live streams for the members only. So sign up for membership if you're interested in that. Otherwise, I will see you either on Friday night or Sunday night. Thanks for watching.